From the dugout to the college admissions board, this is where the next generation of talent is forged. Welcome to the Recruiting Roundtable.
Hello, this is Mike Silvestri. I want to welcome everybody to the Recruiting Roundtable. This is episode 7. Today, we're going to address a couple topics, in particular to the recruiting landscape today, and how to go about that process and what we here at Florida Diamond Recruiting Services can provide versus some other situations that are out there. First and foremost, I do want to say when this business was formed, one of the reasons why it was formed was having families that we knew come to me, and I've been doing this for 30 years, back to my high school coaching days, to my college coaching days, and obviously my pro scouting days that I'm currently doing as well. One of the reasons why this was formed was just people coming to us and saying, I've signed up with a company that called me, that had a telemarketing group call me, something along those lines. We've signed up, nothing's really happening. There's been no specific plan. And what I want to make clear today is a recruiting profile is not a recruiting plan. Their exposure helps an athlete get seen. But at FDRS, we're going to help baseball and softball players with a recruiting team that has college and pro experience. We're going to help you find the right fit. We can contact the coaches directly and then build a realistic path to the next level. I can literally say today at this point, through the course of this business and our history, 35 to 40% is a conservative estimate of families that will come to us after they've signed up for another recruiting service as well. And while you feel horrible, like, why didn't you come to us in the beginning? Again, we work off referrals. We're in the community from a pro scouting standpoint, a college coaching standpoint, all that type of stuff. But yet, like I told a family recently, here you are. And now you're paying 2 services to get something done that should have been, we could have taken care of in the first place. And a classic example that's happened a couple of times already in the very, very recent past is having families come to us that, for example, have taken a situation, they've spent money, they've gone to the wrong college, it's time to transfer, they don't have a good body of work because they're caught up in a 60, 70, 80 player roster situation, something we would have never put them into to begin with. And now they've come to us after, say, spending $10, $15, $20,000 after their academic award or their financial aid award, whatever they qualified for. And now they've wasted that money, wasted a year of development. And now they come to us and we've got to find a place for this player to play without really a body of work to build off of and kind of go back to the high school days and so on. These scenarios happen, or getting the phone call from the local player, I just got to a particular place and I'm one of 12 guys at my position. I could tell you major league organizations in the minor league system don't have a depth of 12 players at specific positions, but yet a college does, because that's a tuition-driven model using athletics to drive the tuition. These are things here at FDRS we're aware of and we will steer you away from because we're not going to target that. So what separates us right from the beginning? Well, like I said before, a recruiting profile is not a recruiting plan. Exposure alone is not enough. We're going to build exactly what we need for the player based off of the first component. What's the first component? Proper evaluation. That's what we do. We do it every day of our lives. My staff of 9 people, and I think it's moving to 10 here fairly shortly. That's what we've done our entire careers, is evaluate and project. And the proper evaluation based off of the year in school, the position, just from the baseball standpoint, not including everything else that we're going to factor in, that sets the tone for how we're going to target things. So when we have families that'll tell us, should I go to this particular camp? If we know that player, that's not a fit, in today's landscape, it's a Division I, it's an SEC, and we know that player coming out of high school is not ready for this, we're going to say, no, that's not where you need to go. You need to go to this particular camp. We're not saying you can't play at that level down the road. That may be, but maybe you need 2 years at junior college. Maybe you need 2 years at a smaller Division I school if that's, fits you athletically. Then we're going to because with the transfer portal, the players have the portability to kind of do whatever they want. Some rules may change with that, but that's at least the landscape we're currently in as of today. So once we do that evaluation, then we factor in all the other things, the academics, geography, what kind of major that player and family are looking at, the finances of it. We know baseball, the myth that everyone has got a full scholarship. It's 90% of the schools out there, maybe 95 don't. They're not fully funded at 34 at the Division I level. Division II has 9. Most Division IIs do not have 9. The JUCO system that's got 25 scholarships, if it's Division I with tuition, books, room, and board included, most don't have that. The Division II system of junior college, that's also got the 25. Most are not funded even close to 25. So these are things that we're aware of. So as we're presenting that player and talking to that family, we can attack all those things in a very targeted manner. So how do we do that? We talked about our evaluation to start. Once we do that and we kind of get on the same page as the family and we make sure that we're onboarding with realistic expectations, that's part of the process. When a player and a family come to us, are we going to be able to manage expectations here? The next thing we're going to do is once that player gets registered, our website has a number of tools that are going to help. First and foremost, we have the college database. That's every college in the country of every single level there is, from D3 JUCO to Division I. Baseball and softball playing schools, they're in there. You can click on, you find them. There's filters to use based off of region, levels. There's a little instructional thing that comes along with it that we guide you through how to use this. So you don't have to go pay another service to research schools that we're telling you to research. So for example, when I tell one of our players yesterday, which I did after watching an in-person game, which we do, and we like to do that because that helps the evaluation process. And I tell one of our players, hey, look, here's the 6 conferences I want you to attack. That's based off of baseball ability, academic ability, all those factors that are going, geography that we talked about when we onboarded that player and family. And then he's able to, with a scripted email that we do that. There is still value in an email today, believe it or not. There is, if it's targeted and it's presented in the right way. The key component is they've used the college database now, save them time to get the information on, what the contact information is for each school in that particular conference. If it's the Atlantic 10 or the American Athletic, whatever it may be, or the Tennessee Junior College System or the Sunshine State Conference, for example. Couple that with the fact that when we write that scripted email, embedded in a hyperlink is going to be a phenomenal tool that we have. That's what's basically your digital business profile or business card. That's going to be something that we do for our players that has every bit of information a college coach would want. Who you are, who your parents are, what your academic situation is, metrics. There's uploads for metrics, your summer schedule, your spring schedule, a player statement, everything you'd want to know about a player, including video that you can upload there as well. We have spots for our own video that we're going to do for our player, plus any additional YouTube channel video they're going to upload. That coach can get through something in 2.5 minutes or less. So, for example, with our transfer portal guys, things have to move quick. We recently had 2 Division I transfer portal guy commits. It'll be announced on social media here in the coming days. What I'm doing when I'm talking to coaches directly is I'm sending them the clickable link to their player profile page. And it's got their credit hours attempted, their GPAs, everything that coach needs, and then he can kind of take it from there. Obviously, we have a relationship with that coach because we have credibility. We've been in this game a long time. Some of these guys we coached against as college coaches. A lot of these guys we've scouted their players as pro scouts. So there's an automatic credibility that comes with it. It's a reason why every one of my guys' profiles, our recruiting advisors, every one of them, from Michaela Santa Cruz, our softball advisor, to all of our baseball advisors, our bios are on there for a reason. We're proud of our bios. There's nothing to hide. This is who we are. This is our experience. This is why we're good at what we do with the experience we have. So in that email that we do for that player, it's a short email. It's scripted by us because we know what to say. We're former coaches, and so with that, you'll have a hyperlink of your digital player profile page. Coach can click on that. Everything is targeted and very specific and who that's sent out to. The other tool that we have that's it's been phenomenal for families is the RRI calculator, the Recruit Readiness Index calculator. It helps identify fit. What do we mean by that? This is a tool for players and parents to put in who they are, their height, their weight, their position, their graduation year, their GPA, any test scores, along with their metrics. I'm a 2028 right-handed pitcher. I'm 6'2". My fastball velo's up to 88. My spin rate's 2350. My curveball is this. My changeup's that. My academics are this. This is where I play. I'm looking at this particular tier of colleges, and we explain to you what each tier means, and you literally hit calculate. And it'll spit out a very good general guideline of, hey, this is where you potentially fit. It may not be where you're saying. Maybe you want to look at this particular level. By the way, here's some helpful tools to maybe increase your velocity if that's the case, or your exit velocity as a position player. So these are tools that families can can use and toy around with as that player, if they come on board early enough, right? If they're a freshman or sophomore, as they mature, they can start to see some of these things. But what if my velo jumps to here? What if, and again, these are general guidelines. We're not factoring in strike percentage. We're not factoring in all those types of things. Again, this is a measurable, that's a humongous help that really gives families an idea of where their son or daughter will potentially fit, with some options that may not be what they thought of. It links right to the college database and says, check these 10 schools out as well. So these are tools that we provide, that this is not just a mass, we're not just mass emailing people. No, email is part of the process, and it's a small part of the process. Us getting on the phone, talking to coaches. This weekend, I spent the entire weekend doing that, seeing most, if not all, of our players play in the high school tournament, seeing some of our college guys in the South Florida Collegiate Baseball League play, talking with coaches, networking with coaches, guys we know, most of these guys we know. And if we don't know them, it's an easy introduction from a fellow scout who does know them, and vice versa. So that's where the credibility part comes in. That's where being able to sit down, for example, last night, telling a pitcher, hey, look, this is what I saw. This is the improvements that need to be made. Let's break down some delivery stuff on video. We do that with our guys. We do that with our pitchers and our position players. We're coaches at heart. So that's all, we're all cut from that cloth. And we're going to break down some video. We're going to go over things, whether your handbrake's late, or whether your arm slot floated, or whether you came in there and, from a mental standpoint, maybe you weren't ready to hit in the first pitch and you took that first pitch fastball. All those types of things, including mechanical breakdowns. So we enjoy that. That's the fun part of this. So again, when we're out there watching players play and making sure that they're in the right travel programs to get that exposure, exposure does not mean direct, recruiting experience. Exposure does not mean that we're good. As long as I'm in the right tournaments, that's not how that works today. I mean, the transfer portal right now probably is approaching 3,000 or 4,000, and we're 7 days into it. Last Monday was opening day. And keep in mind, when you see these numbers are very hard to track. That's not including NAIA players, and that's not including junior college players looking for four-year schools. I've spent the last couple of days on the phone with junior college players that need help getting into four-year schools, and good ones. These guys are productive, they can play, they have skills, and they have tool sets. So when you're doing this process and you're understanding how this ebb and flow goes today, and knowing that the supply without question is greater than the demand, families, keep in mind that roster at 34 at the highest levels at Division I baseball, it's not really 34. We have something called the designated student athlete. Those guys are roster exempt. That's the 25 class. Now it's only it's basically the 25 class. There's a little bit more into it than the 25 class, but it's the 25 class that were freshmen this year. Those guys are roster exempt until they're done. And if the 5-year rule passes, which it sounds like it's going to be, so you're looking at 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Until 2030 season's over, that roster can actually be over 34 players, because those roster exempt designated student athletes, they call them DSAs, which pretty much every freshman in the country was a DSA, will not count against the 34-man roster. So we know that. So what does that mean? All that means is it's maybe like 40, 42, 39, depending upon the institution. But again, if we're expanding into a 5-year rule for these players, then it shrinks the amount of high school players that are needed. So while look, there's good services out there. We think we're as good as anybody out there. What I'm going to tell you is, with the difference of what we do, without question, is the personalized evaluation from a background, myself, our guys got over 30 years in the game at the highest levels of our game, the proper evaluations, the targeted approach, then using our network. If we don't know that particular coach, we're going to get to that coach, because we're going to call somebody who does, who can put us in a phone call with that coach. And instantly, because of our credibility, we're going to be able to talk about your son or your daughter. While we're doing that, we're sending them their player profile page. While we're doing that, we're potentially lining up targeted camps, right? We talk about this with our current classes right now. Hey, by the end of July, we're going to have targeted camps for every player, meaning we've spoken to these coaches, and depending upon the rules, if they're 28 or 27, maybe the coaches are allowed to speak to them because it's post August 1st. If they're 28, if they're 27, the coaches are allowed to speak to them. You're going to go to camps with the target on your back. You're going to get a chance to meet that coach, see the campus, see the surroundings, see if it's a fit athletically and academically and socially for you and financially, and vice versa on the coach's side. These are things that this is a constant ebb and flow process. And when you're talking about what we do with the tools we have, our college database tool, our player profile page, our recruit readiness index calculator, and then factor in the background, the personalized recruiting plan. This is how we accomplish what we want to accomplish for our players. You know, coach activity, a follow on Twitter, that doesn't mean real interest. That's just blanket stuff. You know, the again, when we talk about what we're trying to do for your son or daughter, it's not about mass outreach. When we do our emails, they're specifically targeted. The player is sending those emails specifically targeted. We're going to follow those things up with a phone call to the coach as interest starts to develop. And if there's not interest, to confirm, is there interest or not? It's, again, mass outreach, not exactly the same as a targeted outreach. Exposure in a tournament, not exactly the same as leading to real recruiting opportunities. And what I can tell you is this: we're a service, all services cost money. All services cost money. We are clearly not the highest out there, not even close. We're not the lowest out there. We're somewhere, I would say, middle to just under the middle as far as what we charge. There's a reason for that. I think we can do a really good job in a timely and efficient manner. We target things very directly. We're going to tell you how long this should take. If we're onboarding a junior college player that's coming off not a real great freshman year or they didn't play much, we're going to tell you it's probably going to take deep into the spring into June, possibly July. That's a fact. If you're coming in off a really good year and we can build off of that in a good program, maybe we'll have you done by the end of the fall or early part of the spring, or at least, once we get going in February, March at the very latest. Those are timelines we give. If it's a 2029 who's going to be a sophomore, who's ready for Division I exposure, hey, look, we're going to make sure we're going to line you up. So come August 1st, you're getting, the proper contact that you're going to get through the month of August after they're allowed to talk to you. So there's different, we target it for different classes, different ways. What I will tell you is this, and I've seen it happened recently. And, when you see a player that's adequate, using someone else's service, and why is that player going to that camp? Can't play there. You think about that. You go to camp and there, if you want to go to a camp just to get the exposure of going to a big university camp and it's early in your career, you're a freshman or sophomore, just to see what it's like, a big SEC school, ACC school, Big 10 school, Big 12 school, whatever it may be, it's great if you're using it for that reason, to just see what this process takes place. But if you're going in there with the hopes of being recruited and you're being sent there by somebody, and I see it time and time again, let's think about that. You're flying somewhere, sometimes across country, sometimes up the Eastern Seaboard, sometimes to the Midwest. That's parents going to go with you. That's 2 flights. In today's day and age, with the way fuel prices are, we're over $1,000 in flights. You've got your camp registration fee. For the 2-day camp, it's $300 or $400. You've got your hotel for a couple of nights. That's another couple $100 a night in a hotel. You've got meals. You got to rent a car or Uber or whatever you're going to do there. You're over $2,500 out and being in a situation that you should have never went to in the first place. And I think, or going to a particular showcase where the schools that are there and the attendees that are there from those schools, the representatives, it's not a fit. And I can tell you the thousands of dollars we've saved our families by either saying, no, that's not where you need to go. You need to go over here, or let us handle that particular situation for you. We can do, if it's a junior, we can do a private workout, if it's a Division II and so on, based off what the rules are and what you're allowed to do. We're not going to send you somewhere to send you somewhere. We're not going to, when I have a parent call and tell me my son is being followed by this particular Division I school, and this has happened very recently, and I'm very matter of fact, no, they're not, because they're eligible to be, they're at the age now where they're allowed to be talked to. And how many conversations have you had? Where's your offer sheet? It's not being followed. But I went to the camp and they said, well, I'm going to tell you, whoever sent you to that camp, that wasn't the right place to go to. What their motivations are, I don't know. misevaluation, whatever it may be. We don't do that. It's specifically targeted for specific reasons. And I think that's where, at the end of the day, with our targeted search, our service really pays for itself. And at the end of the day, we'll save you at times 5 figures worth of money of spending an extra $7,000 or $10,000 or even more of going to the wrong places. So Florida Diamond Recruiting Services, from a baseball and softball standpoint, from the staff we have in place, from how we do things, understanding exposure alone is not enough. You need an advocate in today's world. If you're a transfer portal guy out there and you're thinking that posting on Twitter is going to get it done, 70% of the kids in transfer portal careers will end. That's factual. That's just based off history. We have history lessons because history tends to repeat itself. If you need help, which most do, there's the 1%ers of the 1%ers. I'm going from this SEC school to that SEC school, or that ACC school to that SEC school. Those are the 1/2 of 1%ers. The rest of us, you need a targeted approach, and you need some help, and you need some guidance. Hence our 2 recent Division I commits that we spent a lot of time and effort making sure that we were targeting the right schools and on the phone with those coaches, as this whole process of the portal took place. So while yes, all services cost money, not all services are equal. We know we're going to save families money in the long run. And at the end of the day, whatever you're paying us is going to come back to you in what we've saved you probably by 2 or 3 times. And that's been a proven fact moving forward. I thank you for your time. I hope you've been informative today. This is Mike Silvestri from Florida Diamond Recruiting Services. If you'd like to hear some of these real stories from families, give me a call. I'll be happy to put you in touch with a few of how we've saved them money and how they've gone to a different service and come back to us. And now they've paid for 2, but one's getting it done. And if you just came to us a little bit earlier, we'd probably saved you money, or we would have right from the get-go, because we'd have targeted the exact place your son or daughter should be attending to. Thank you.
That's a wrap on this week's edition of the Recruiting Roundtable. Join us next time as we continue to guide athletes and their parents on the recruiting process on and off the diamond.